One more.
I'm already.
Got it? Okay. Whatever you say.
So maybe we should announce that in the beginning of the meeting.
Say 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything?
That's placed on the facilities committee last week, and he called in for that.
JJ gonna do it?
I figured he was. Hip Driver just got out. He's gone for 30 years. Yeah. It's down to him and his wife. No, they take the motorhome.
They don't ride the bike.
Too old to ride that far. Actually, he probably doesn't. He was on a trip. He just got back from the trip. They went to Kentucky. Him and both family.
And they're well expected.
He's got a trike though.
Okay. Misinformation.
Well, but it was misleading. It was so misleading. Like, geez, if you're gonna make a headline, you should have it. Yeah. Can't even remember what it was about.
I don't know either. I was just trying to think of it. It was an export.
Oh, yeah, it was that little sliver of land to the cemetery.
I can't believe that
You can't let a church buy their cemetery. They thought they owned it, apparently.
It helped all along.
Exactly. He wants to own a cemetery. Maybe.
Somebody else about it. All right, we do have 10 o'clock.
Right.
We're gonna call the meeting in order here and we'll rise for the pledge. Allegiance to the flag. All right, well, we do have a full house here, it looks like today. We do have a few seats up here. If anybody's looking for some, or I see a few in the back. Just a couple of points of clarification. We're gonna actually have two public comments today. We're gonna have regular public comment, which is whatever you want to talk about, and then we will have one on the data center public hearing. So if you do want to talk about that, if you can, we'll go through that at a later time. So we started off with public comment. I'm just gonna run through these, this will apply to both the public comment now and the Davis Center. Members of the public are invited to speak. After being recognized by the chair, speakers should approach the podium, speak into the microphone. Speakers should state their name and limit comments to 3 minutes. Speakers may not share minutes with other speakers, as part of the county board protocol is unacceptable for any speaker to slander or engage in character assassination at the public board meeting. So with that, we will open up public forum. And like I said, this is just our regular public forum, and then we'll go on to the data center one once we get through on the agenda. So if anybody wants to speak at public forum, they're invited to come up. Yep.
Patrice DeGray, Royalton Township. I wanted to read from your ordinance nuisance, page 7. Any property condition that is injurious to health or indecent or offensive to the senses or an obstruction to the free use of property so as to interfere with comfortable enjoyment of life and property. Now, also, I wanted to update you that your local management plan is for 2010 to 2020. So you should update this at some point. I want to know if townships are to have their ordinances stricter than the county. And they do have, but neither is following that nuisance order. Who's responsible? Because this largest cannabis operation in the state that is across the road from us now has noise pollution. So we have light pollution, odor pollution, and noise pollution. In the nuisance ordinance, that's not allowed here or in our township. So who do we go to? Who's responsible? We've complained to the township, the county, and the OCM. So who's responsible to make sure our nuisance ordinance is being followed? Now, we have been here nearly every time for over 2.5 years. Who's responsible? We're tax-paying citizens who have paid taxes here for 46 years. I've lived in that community across the road for 65 years. This nuisance is a nuisance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep, come on.
Yeah, John DeGray, Royalton Township. I'm just curious, are you guys gonna follow your ordinance? Now, you allowed him to bring in 3 reefers to put his cannabis in. So have you checked to make sure that none of that smell's getting out of that, because that's indoor drying? And how is he gonna get them out of them containers? Because he opens the doors, the smell's gonna come out. So he's got 2 of them running now, and he plans on running 3 of them. And then that's where she's talking the nuisance. Why are we a truck stop now? He's got 3 reefers running continuous. So we hear them all night long. So who let that go on? Since when is this a trucking outfit around here? It's supposed to be a cannabis, not trucking. So now he's got 3, he's gonna have 3 reefers going. And is he gonna deliver them out of there, just haul them out? Or is he planning on opening the doors and letting that smell out? Because that's gonna be really bad, because the reefers don't, have you checked the filters on them, to make sure nothing's coming out right now? Because that is your responsibility. The OCM allowed them to put them there, but you're responsible for the odor coming out of them. So Thank you.
Thanks. There was a couple people that, or yeah, go ahead. You can come up, Denise.
Denise Weiss, Royalton Township. I have two complaints that I'm going to be submitting here this afternoon. The one complaint is, yes, the refrigeration trucks of the semi-trailers that have been brought in, they are running all day and night. I didn't understand what a reefer was. Old school, thought of it differently in the beginning when some of that term was being used, but they are refrigeration trucks from the semi-trailers. We hear it all day and night. We have our windows open now that it's been cooling off a little bit. You can hear the low hum because I'm a little further away. So it's not the higher pitch that the DeGrays are hearing, but it's a low hum. And our neighbors in the area across the river have been hearing this also. And it wasn't something that we put two and two together with until a few days into it. So it's been about the last week that these have been going. Now, with any other business, noise is supposed to be turned off by 7 PM. You're not supposed to have to hear it at 1 in the morning, at 4 in the morning, literally 24/7. So along with that, there is a complaint with that. My second complaint is going to be July 21st. Urba said that they were a partnership with Pine County for a logo on all of their cannabis products, that it was going to be distributed across the state of Minnesota. I know also at the 28th meeting of July, Chairman also mentioned that this was going to be going across. Now, you guys are the oversight authority for the state of Minnesota for cannabis. And now if we have the county being a partnership with the largest marijuana dealer in the state of Minnesota, who have you guys hired to be able to look at our complaints in a non-biased review? Because clearly, being in a partnership, there's now a biased element there. There has been employees that helped with this logo that are paid by Pine County. And now us as citizens have complaints. Who do we now turn our complaints into? Who have you hired as an outside authority to review our complaints? And if we do this, if this is happening for this, what happens if a data center comes in? What happens if there's any other business that comes in and you guys are now in a partnership? How do we as citizens have viable complaints and how are they non-biasedly heard? So thank you. And I'm going to leave the two complaints with Ms. Gray there. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, what I was getting to a little bit before that was there's a few people that came in late, just so they know. If you want to speak about the data center, we're gonna have a separate public hearing on that. This is just public hearing for anything else. So with that, is there anybody else in the building here that wants to talk at public forum? All right, seeing none, is there anybody online that, I know we have a few people online. Does anybody want to talk now at public forum? No? Okay, sounds good. I just want to make sure that that doesn't get missed. So, all right. So with that, is there any additions or revisions to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, there is just additional information. We had someone that submitted a written comments regarding the data center public hearing, so you have that in front of you.
Yeah. All right, with that, we'll,
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second.
okay. We got a motion by Holland, second by Ludwig. All right, any other discussion on the agenda? We do have a remote commissioner today, so we will do a roll call vote. Go ahead.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Chair Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Nelson.
Yes.
District 4, Commissioner Walden.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, approve the minutes of the August 4th, 2026 regular county board meeting and summary for publication.
Move to approve.
All right. Motion by Nelson's, second by Holland. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, go ahead, Deb.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yes.
Commissioner Walden.
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
All right, minutes of boards, committees and correspondence, Pine County zoning board minutes, June 25th, 2026. And annual disclosure of tax incremental districts for the year ended December 31st, 2025, Pine City.
Ludwig will move.
Okay. Motion by Ludwig, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Nelson. Any other discussion? Hearing none, go ahead and call the roll call.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Walden,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, consent agenda. A lot there.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Okay. I'll second. Motion by Holland, second by Ludwig. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, go ahead and call the roll call.
Commissioner Walden,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to the regular agenda. So we'll start it off with the data center moratorium, public hearing. And we'll start off with the presentation of the ordinance authorizing a study and placing a moratorium on the data center developments.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Kelly Schroeder, County Administrator. So back on July 7th, the county passed interim ordinance 2026-15, which authorized a study and placed a moratorium on data center developments. A moratorium means that should a permit application come forward, we cannot approve it. We just get to say no. And the purpose that statute allows us to do moratoriums is specifically so we have time to study the topic and come up with a solution as to how we are going to move forward with it. So as we were finalizing that moratorium and looking at the statute that authorizes us to place a moratorium, it was noted that while that statute doesn't specifically say that a public hearing is necessary, conducting the public hearing would ensure a procedural foundation to make sure that if there was any challenge to the moratorium, there would not be any. So that is why we're here today, is to ensure that the moratorium that was placed back in July does meet all of those procedural boxes.
Okay. All right,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Kelly, if we go through this public hearing and we affirm what we decided in July, does the moratorium start back in July, or does it start today or tomorrow? Or does it start when we say we want it to start?
Well, Mr. Chair, I would leave that up to, I guess, the board's discretion, because, I mean, as Administrator Schroeder noted, that the statute is not specific with regards to whether we actually need a public hearing for this, but this does just ensure the safety of making sure this moratorium goes forward. So I would say it's up to the board if you want to start it back from July going forward or from today going forward. That would be up to you.
We do not receive any applications in the last 6 weeks, so.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for a county attorney as well. A couple things. So talk to us about the length of a moratorium. Can it be extended indefinitely? Is there a time frame? And if you do something shorter than the whatever statutory length, can you extend it? And how many times can you extend it? Can you talk about that a little bit for us?
I can, and Mr. Chair and Commissioner Nelson. So just kind of in general land use, county's land use authority derives from Minnesota statute. So the Minnesota legislature puts in statute what the county can do with regards to land use, planning and zoning and such. And so moratoriums are based on statute 394.34. And what that statute says is that you can place a moratorium. It's basically an emergency measure and it's temporary. So it means that you have up to 1 year is the maximum you can do. You get to the 1 year point, you can extend it for another year and then you're completely cut off. So it's not meant to last beyond 2 years. And so it's discretion with the board between, you know, how much time under a year, the initial year period, how much time you want to do. And then you have to make a good faith effort to kind of study the conditions and such. And so there's no such thing as a permanent moratorium. That's actually an oxymoron because moratorium itself actually means delay, a temporary period of pause. If you're going beyond that, then you have to go to planning and zoning, and planning and zoning has to make basically recommendations on what to do with data centers beyond the moratorium. So this is basically, we're putting a pause on this and you've got a period of time to study. Again, maximum of a year, you can extend it another year, but that's all we're given under state law.
So just a follow-up on that. So currently, the one that we passed earlier was a 6-month moratorium. If during as we get close to the end of that time, we say, well, you know, we don't have enough time or we haven't fully studied, can we extend that?
Yes. Yeah, basically you have up to 1 year. And then when you hit that 1 year period, then you've got another 1 year period. You can renew it as long as it's in good faith. And you're still working towards studying the assets.
Mr. Chair. Yeah. So do we have to have another public hearing at that point, or can we just extend the existing?
The statute is not clear on that. So yeah, again, it's kind of a left interpretation. It might be a good idea to do that, but there's really no clear case law or statutory authority on that.
It's our discretion.
Yeah. One more follow up. The question of what if everybody gets all their work done in 4 months and everything is, we're ready to move ahead with a ordinance? Can we, even though we say it's 6 months long, can we at that point say the moratorium's over? Sorry.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hallen, I believe if you're going to set, it's an ordinance set in law, that this is 6 months, and I think that's the period.
That's the period.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? And I think it's clear that we're here to try to figure out the best path forward. I don't think anybody can necessarily say, we're gonna stop these. The reason the moratorium was talked about so much is because this is land use. Everybody has land. Moratorium is a very, very, very overreaching form of government that just stops anything anybody wants to do with their own property. So that's why we took it very seriously and really wanted to talk about this for a long time, because nobody wants a moratorium. You know, maybe if you don't agree with this, you want a moratorium, but if it's something that would prevent, you know, you to do something with your own property, then a moratorium is evil, you know? So that's why we, you know, I know Commissioner Holland's been very vocal about against a moratorium. I think I have as well. And we've seen some stuff come down in moratoriums that were very unintended consequences. So, with that, they're designed for what we're looking at doing here today. Give us a little pause, give us a little time to figure this out, because they did hammer in really fast. And it started blowing up in a hurry. And we have a few members of our zoning board here today that are on the work group to try to figure out some restrictions and some zoning stuff for this. So just keep that in mind. And with that, if there's nothing more, okay.
I have another question. I think our staff maybe alluded to it, but I just want to be clear. We have nothing, as far as we know, there is nothing in the works regarding an application or a possibility. There's no NDA stuff going on, at least not that I'm aware of, but
Correct. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we have received no inquiries. This was something that was brought forward from the zoning board just as a proactive measure.
And just so everybody understands, including myself, we're here not to set the standards or make parameters around a data center. We're here to have a moratorium or not have a moratorium.
Correct. And then it authorizes the study to decide how this.
Right.
And to add on that, we already did pass a moratorium. But we looked at it and decided we better do this before we finalize all that. So, I mean, there could be some different things that would change that. I'm not gonna talk for everybody else, but, with that, is there anything else from the board that wants to talk? Otherwise, we'll open it up in the public forum. Okay, with that, I'm just gonna read back over the public forum stuff. Members of the public are invited to speak. After being recognized by the chair, speakers should approach the podium and speak into the microphone. Speakers should state their name and limit comments to 3 minutes. Speakers may not share minutes with other speakers. As part of the county board protocol, it is unacceptable for any speaker to slander or engage in character assassination at the public board meeting. So with that, what we're gonna do is we'll open it up to the in-person stuff first. So we'll go through whoever wants to talk in person here. And then after that, we'll open it up. I know we got a few online ones. The online, if anybody wanted to, I was supposed to say that earlier, but if anybody wanted to get on there, I think that's cut off because we can only monitor that for so long. We do have a few people online that did requests. So, but if they want to right now, I don't think we can get anybody on there, right, Ryan? Or, yeah, okay, sounds good. So with that, we'll open up the public public hearing. So whoever wants to talk, the key is when you come up, state your name and roughly where you live, township, whatever city. So we'll take public testimony. Don't all run up. All right, we got one here.
My name is Mike Link. I live up in Willow River and Kettle River Township. And I have a great concern over this because to me, what's happening with the data centers is that we're like a gold rush. Everybody wants one. All of a sudden it's in all the news. Every place we see is this. But if I remember back, I had I worked at Honeywell in 65 and they brought in a computer. They had to put in that computer. They had to put the whole first floor of the Honeywell office into that computer. That computer had less than what this does, had less capacity. These data centers are suddenly the big thing. It's the new kid on the block and everybody wants to look towards that. But they're going to change. Everything does. And to be on the front line means that we're going to have something that becomes almost obsolete or is going to be this white elephant that's out there and it's taking our water. It's hitting the electricity. We don't have a demand for it right now, but we do have, those of us who live in Pine County have a great deal of concern about having the land around us quiet. We want the water pure. I don't want my well to go dry. I don't want to hear the sound because as I'm talking to people around the country trying to find out what's happening with data centers, and they got this terrible whining noise. You just heard about all these trucks and the sounds they give. That's nothing compared to what these sounds will be. So I'm going to ask the board to please consider to extend the moratorium, not only to give you time for research, but to give the organizations, the whole industry a chance to make things better, to figure out, because they're facing these same issues. They're going to make changes. So let's not be the first one on the block to allow them to come in and do damage to our county. And if you wouldn't mind, I just have 15 Just a very quick, water is our greatest asset. Protect it. If I could give this and distribute to you later on, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello, my name is Josette Coots. I'm a resident of Finlayson. I've lived there for 20 years. And thank you for having this hearing. Even though this public hearing is taking place after your decision to implement a 6-month moratorium on allowing data centers in Pine County, again, I want to thank you for at least going ahead with that decision. There will likely be a significant number of people voicing their opinions today. I'd like to share mine as well. They're not anything new. They've been around since at least the 1990s, but until recently, as Mike said, those were small to mid-size and didn't have the implication that today's hyperscale ones do. As of January 2026, there were 3,900 data centers in the US, 81 in Minnesota, and we know the I-35 corridor is certainly being eyed for more to be built. I oppose the construction of any hyperscale data center in Pine County due to a number of documented factors. First of all, the need to procure and build new power infrastructure is necessary. According to the World Resources Institute, a single modern AI data center can use as much power as 100,000 homes, and many of the hyperscale structures being built are expected to use 20 times that amount. We know Minnesota power companies have already been approached by these huge corporations with enticing money being waived and accompanied by non-disclosure agreements to get the deals done. These can take place without county or city officials even being aware of them. Recent events in Hermantown and Moose Lake illustrate that. Secondly, noise pollution from heavy-duty cooling fans, air chillers, backup diesel generators, and on-site power turbines create a steady hum or high-pitched whining sound that can penetrate homes and are a steady 24/7 annoyance. Again, you just heard about that with cannabis grower pieces. Some communities like Mount Pleasant, Michigan, have had to initiate lawsuits because of that. Light pollution is another concern. All-night security lighting creates a nighttime halo visible in a large area. This can interrupt our circadian rhythms, interfere with sleep and flight migration patterns. There are, however, industry practices that can mitigate those, and some places have done so. Big one that really concerns me has to do with surface and groundwater. That impact would be astronomical. Pine County is currently in a severe drought status, something we've experienced in previous years as well. But this year, I've been particularly aware of wetlands and lakes near my home drying up. It's no secret that these huge hyperscale data centers use tremendous amounts of water to cool the hundreds of thousands of servers that are packed onto racks that operate continuously and generate large amounts of heat. According to World Resources Institute, mid-sized facilities use up to 300,000 gallons of water per day, equivalent to the daily water usage of 1,000 households. Large size facilities use as much as 5 million gallons per day, a usage equivalent to a town of 10 to 50,000 people. The vast majority of data centers simply hook up to local water mains, meaning that this potable water is diverted from water residents and businesses would use in communities. And it already has created water use restrictions and lowered water pressure for local residents who are already in the areas of these data centers.
If I can just interrupt you real quick. Get past our 3 minutes and
Okay.
you can just wrap it up.
Okay, I will just do that. Right. Anyway, I hope after today's hearing, our county commissioners can agree that a 6-month moratorium is not long enough to thoroughly research this. And I hope that in your discussions that you will be completely transparent and not swayed by NDAs. Because once you lose public trust, you won't get it back again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Deb Knudsen. I'm from Arlone Township, and I would like to submit a PowerPoint that kind of talks about some of the things that these folks have already said. I did not create this, but it's very succinct, and there is some sourcing on this. The couple things that I would like to bring up is one thing to think about is the financial viability of AI. And are these data centers really going to survive long-term? Remember about the tech bubble that we had a number of years ago and how that burst and how that tech did not sustain itself. So I don't want Pine County to be stuck with a data center that is not going to be able to use. Elon Musk took Grok, put it into his space company, put it into an index fund to prop it up because it was at this point not financially viable. And he used that index fund to try to prop up his AI business. So that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be someday, but I would encourage you to put that moratorium in as long as it takes to watch this industry and see how it's going, see what it's doing so that we know it's a financially viable business if it's going to be. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and this is not substantiated in any way, but I've heard this in 2 different places, just grumblings out there that people are being approached to sell their property to somebody that wants to maybe build a mobile home park. When you look at who really is buying that, it's a tech company. So just keep that in the back of your mind that some things like that may be starting to happen, even though you're not hearing about an application. I heard this in 2 different places. And thanks for your consideration. And thank you for the moratorium in the first place. I really appreciate that you didn't just jump in and say, hey, we're going to do this. This is wonderful. So thank you.
James Kunze of Sandstone. So as a resident of Pine County, I just want to say that data centers are here. They've been here in some form, whether it's servers in buildings, whatever, they are here. I want Pine County to be proactive as possible when dealing with this. I personally wanted a 1-year moratorium to be in line with the other counties. So when they have meetings scheduled and everything, we could get all the information. One more thing I would like to bring up. My local energy provider is Minnesota Power. BlackRock, through a subsidiary, bought up Elite Power. They own 60% of Elite Power. BlackRock is big into data centers, communication center networks, and they're buying up transmission lines. After 2030, the rate agreement is off. That's not good for us. That's not good for Pine County. I want Pine County to be as proactive as possible looking forward. And I would really love Pine County to start looking into solar power to kind of offset the increased costs that we're going to get. And if they don't get you in a rate change, they get you in distribution charges and transmission charges. So after 2030, we have to be looking at quite a rate increase, especially during times of heat, extreme heat and cold. So we have to, this is something we have to be very proactive on. And I encourage the board and Pine County to be as proactive as possible. Thank you, guys.
Tricia Black, Kettle River Township. So I echo what's been said before. What's not being said is that this light pollution and noise pollution interferes with not just migratory patterns, but mating patterns for both insects and birds. We have a large agricultural industry that's dependent on insects. And we also have a large tourism industry that's dependent on these beings being here and healthy. So that's another consideration. I would also like to reiterate that 6 months is not enough to do these kind of studies when we're talking about insects and birds. These are seasonal things that have to be studied in their season and then kind of see how it turns out in the next season. So a year at minimum is needed to be able to do that kind of thing. And finally, I want to say it's not enough that we put this moratorium to just study what the impacts are. The moratorium also has to be for you to get the regulations in place that we need to protect the county. And to make sure that there's rules in place so that you cannot accept NDAs or whatever other inducements that these companies are doing. And it's not just about those studies. You need to be above all this as well. And we need to be able to trust that you've got the regulations in place to control whatever rogues players might be out there so that we can say, no, not our commissioners, they're not doing that. They've already put those into place. So that's my request, is that this is a dual thing that you have to look at, not just the impacts, but how you are going to regulate things so that everybody is above reproach.
Well, my name is Deborah Trent. I live in Finlandson. And thank you for having this moratorium open hearing for us to voice our concerns. I agree with everything that has already been said, but I want to make a special point about our flyway zone. The Mississippi Flyway moves hundreds of millions of birds each year, twice a year, from Central America, Mexico, up to Canada. And we are sitting in Pine County right smack in the middle of that. The light pollution that these data centers cause birds to have disorientation, collisions, and it impacts over 325 species of birds, many of them songbirds, but also bald eagles, our beloved common loon, sandhill cranes, trumpeter swans, all these birds and things that we in this wonderful rural area take somewhat for granted. The sky glow that comes across also is disruptive to birds. The noise that these cooling fans make and generators basically drowned out some of the frequencies that these birds use for mating calls as well as distress calls. And, you know, basically, if birds are distracted with this all-night light glow that is normally a dark sky here in Pine County, it can disrupt where they forage for food as they're on their way to Canada. They can basically wear themselves out after hundreds of miles of flying. It also disrupts when they might arrive to do their nesting every year to continue their species. The thermal discharge that is caused by even closed loop systems from these data centers does raise water temperatures. And we have a lot of streams and rivers, as well as, I think, 142 lakes in Pine County. This will be very disruptive to aquatic animals and to birds such as loons and other birds that do feed on fish. And PFAS that are in these discharges are forever chemicals. We don't really have a facility in Pine County. None of our local sewage facilities could handle the type of industrial discharge chemicals that might be coming out when these discharges happen into streams and into the groundwater. People already talked about groundwater depletion and the amount of water used. But construction does not only isolate, but it fragments different habitats that are so important to our area and to our quality of life. Just a note about the tourism industry here. According to Minnesota Legislature, Explore Minnesota, the last year that we have data, 2023, there was 166 million on visitor spending in Pine County alone. 898 jobs were created that supported the industry in this county. And there were over $12.6 million in state and local taxes that were generated because of visitors coming here to their cabins, to the resorts. And they want to see the sky at night. They want to have a chance to see northern lights. They want to hear a loon call or a trumpeter swan. And data centers would forever leave a impact that is just disastrous to habitats and the environment for many, many species. So I want to thank you. And I hope that you will extend this moratorium and really consider strongly getting as much research as you can in that time. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Jason Missick, Finlayson Township. This is half a mile. That's half a mile from a data center. What are we doing?
Patrice Gray Royalton. I have one question, and this might be for the attorney. If the townships have already passed or are passing an ordinance, is that going to override this? Is that, please, will it be? Will the townships override? You can answer it later. If that's the case, then every one of these townships who have thrown their support to you to protect them better take care of getting their own ordinance. Thank you. Oh, one other point, they've mentioned birds and insects. What about the trees? We have a big section of oak trees that are already dead from 1 year of lights from cannabis on a much smaller scale than this would be. So a year is way too short. Thank you.
Mary Carlson. I'm running for Minnesota State Senate in District 11, which encompasses all of Pine County. I was asked to come and speak here today on behalf of some folks that are working and were unable to attend. I want to say thank you for having this. Thank you for passing the moratorium. I sit on a school board. I know how these hearings can sometimes be a bit nerve-wracking. I want to echo everything that has already been said. I also want to say that when I got into this Senate race, I didn't think I'd be talking about data centers. And boy, has that changed over the last 6 months. Our farmers are concerned about losing their land. Commissioner Moore, I want to respond to something that you said. And you said that people should be able to do with their land what they want. And I fully agree. Up in Carlton County, there is a realtor that is trying to buy some land. And he was very transparent with me that once he gets a foothold for a data center, the surrounding farms eventually have no choice. Additionally, it's coming out in the Hermantown hyperscale data center that there's likely to be imminent domain involved for high velocity transmission lines. So what about those property owners or the property owners who live next door to it and might suffer the consequences? Other people are concerned about water, electricity. I, as a small business owner, am concerned about tax breaks. I pay my fair share in taxes. And since entering the Senate race, I've learned that the 42 data centers that currently operate in the state of Minnesota are given $174 million in sales tax exemptions every single year. That should alarm every person in this room. I sit on a local school board and I often hear about the financial benefits that will come to school districts. And I encourage you all to do research about what will actually happen. Yes, money will come in and the state will pull other funding. And this has been well studied even in the state of Minnesota with the Hermantown Data Center. Also, you're going to hear about labor and how Minnesota labor is going to be used to build these. There is currently no state law on the books that requires that data centers be built with local Minnesota labor. So that's a mute argument. We also heard earlier in the original public comment that you have an enforcement issue with other variances that have already been granted. So we need to be taking a look at the enforcement, that whatever zoning you put into place, you need to have a way to enforce that zoning. And I encourage you to take the time to make sure that the neighbors are going to be empowered to have real repercussions if the noise is too much, if the light pollution is going too far. And finally, I want to say that if you look at the Port Washington data center, that's a hyperscale that's being built in Wisconsin, the neighbors actually had to go to court to make sure that construction was not happening 24/7 with lights and noise. That cost the local government money. We need to make sure that as you're putting these zoning and ordinances into place, that you're protecting people from that 24/7 construction as well. In conclusion, this moratorium is just the beginning. You have a lot of work to do, and I appreciate all of the time that you're going to put into this. And I really hope that you do the due diligence, you do the studies, and that whatever zoning you put into place is going to protect everyone that calls Pine County home. Because the people that have made their lives and their livelihoods here deserve that protection from all of you. Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody else in the building here?
Good morning, Justin Johns, Shimatana Township, formerly Pine City Township, formerly City of Pine City, and also the CEO of East Central Energy. So East Central Energy is a member-owned co-op owned by the people here who take power from East Central Energy, governed by a board of directors, much like the county commissioners take care of things on behalf of the county residents. And I'm here to comment a little bit on the electric because that's what I at least am accused of being an expert on. The reality is these data centers are huge. The hyperscalers are big. And my job and the job of the board of directors at ECE is to mitigate the risk on electric rates. Now, I can tell you unequivocally that data center or no data center, electric rates are going up. There's a lot of pressure on everything associated with the business that I'm in. And so rates are going up. But data centers are certainly going to put pressure in the MISO market, in the region, in the country, on electric rates. And so part of our job is to mitigate that risk as we go forward. And we have contracts and plans to do that. We talk with data centers, maybe not on a daily basis, but certainly on a weekly and monthly basis throughout our 14 county service territory. So it's not a new subject for us. And I applaud the county on the moratorium. I think thoughtful zoning conversations are critical. The economic development opportunities associated with it, I think, can be significant if it's done well. But as you've heard today, there is significant societal concern about how that's done. And so there needs to be considerable effort put into zoning and mitigating, whether it's noise, water use, light pollution, all of these issues need to be addressed by the county and handled appropriately. And I'd just like to offer ECE's resources. The odds are in Pine County that, because Minnesota Power tends to serve the municipal areas, Hinkley, Sandstone, Willow River, all of the kind of like town areas, East Central Energy would likely be the electric provider. Now, one thing I want everyone to understand is we don't have a choice of whether or not we provide electricity to them. Our service territories were designated in 1974. And so if someone comes to our area and wants to have electric service, we have an obligation to serve them. And we will do that. And we'll do that in a way that mitigates the risk to the rest of the membership. But so if a data center does come, we'd like to be a part of the conversation with the county about how that all plays out over time. And that holds true for the task force, the group that you have working on this now. If there's any resources or data that we can provide from a national perspective, we work with a lot of co-ops around the country that have done data centers, Virginia State, for example. And so we'd love to be a part of that conversation, particularly obviously on the electric side. But I think the due diligence, as you've heard today, is a critical aspect of this. I've lived in this county my entire life. I want to continue to enjoy the beauty of rural Minnesota, rural America. And so I hope you will take the time to do this right and to get things in place that allow for us to preserve our way of life. Thank you.
Jason Missick, Finlayson Township. On the 3rd of July, I was on Big Pine Lake with my family. And I looked at the horizon and I said, did I just see a helicopter? And my family was like, what? No, we'd hear it. So we passed from the North Lake to the South Lake. And there on the south end of the South Lake was a helicopter that was hovering with this strange yoke attachment on it. And it was hovering above the tree line. And I was like, that's interesting. What is that? And my sister said, they're scanning for groundwater for data centers. That's what those are. And I looked it up online and sure enough, there it was. That was on the 3rd of July. On the 4th, it was flying over our farm scanning for groundwater. What are we to do? Like if they approach you and your property is worth, let's say your property is worth $500,000, okay? They will come in and offer you $2 million. And if you don't take it, your neighbor will because they might have to. And so what are you left with? What are we all going to be left with when this is in our backyards?
Morning. My name is Rachel Kosky Nielsen, Sandstone Township. I just want to echo something that Jason just said. I have also seen similar helicopters with equipment like that flying over my small farm in Sandstone throughout the summer. It's very concerning to look up what that equipment might be and find out that it has preceded the establishment of data centers in other rural areas. I understand that there is some groundwater mapping going on through the government, but I think we know that the government shares, our federal government, our state government, both share information with private corporations. On that note, I would like to make a specific request that we enact a 1-year moratorium on data center development in Pine County that would be effective today. I do want to thank you guys for the initial moratorium that you put in place. I know that it was the right call. I also would like to ask that during the time that you're doing your studies, that you don't leave us in the dark about what you're finding out. If we could maybe establish some way that you guys update us on what you're learning, I think that everyone would feel a lot more comfortable moving forward in that manner. I also would respectfully ask, I know that signing non-disclosure agreements is not illegal. And I know that there are instances where they might even make sense. But I think on this issue, we can all agree that non-disclosure agreements for the purpose of the development of data centers are not appropriate. So I would ask respectfully that you commit publicly to us, the residents of Pine County, that you won't engage in any, that you won't sign any, or in any other activity that might seem underhanded or that could break the public trust. Thank you for your time.
Yep, come on up.
Denise Weiss, Royalton Township. We touched base with this when we were talking about the largest cannabis facility coming into our community, and water has been a huge issue. You know that I've talked about this, you know that we do have a bad well. But I just want to let the people who are here in the audience and anybody who is listening, that we do live in the Mount Simon Hinckley Aquifer in Pine County, and most of the county is in this aquifer. And in 2021, the state of Minnesota produced legislation which restricted what could be used out of the aquifer because there's no practical alternatives exist to refill this aquifer. So I would hope this aquifer extends small down into Anoka, goes up into Carlton. I know Kelly has a good map of it. We've talked about it before. So I would hope that when we are looking at the amount of water and different types of water that goes into these data centers, that the aquifer itself is also looked at, because this can significantly impact the community. Even though there's different levels of aquifers, we want to make certain that that is not being used, because there is no existing resources to refill that aquifer. And that's why the state of Minnesota produced the legislation in 2021. Thanks.
All right, we got anybody else in person? Okay, seeing none, we'll go online. Nobody online wants to talk? Okay. All right, I'll call again. Anybody in person wanna come up and talk? All right. So with that, we'll close the public hearing, and we will go to county board additional discussion if necessary. You guys want to chat?
Mr. Chair, if I could just, I've been very critical of moratoriums because in my young adult life, I got what I felt screwed over by a moratorium in our township, and it's left a sour taste in my mouth for 50 years or 35 at least. And the other thing I do have to say is I'm very conflicted, because without AI, I could not function in life the way I like to. I've lost my sight, and with the use of electronic tools, I can navigate around my farm. I can read my board agendas, although my battery is going dead, Ryan, and I didn't bring my charger, I don't think, but so I'm conflicted because they have to be someplace. And so in my mind, everything I've listened to is that there are ways, and like the first gentleman said, it's still a maturing technology, maturing industry. And you know, they've kind of solved the water use compared to what they used to do with closed loop and geothermal type cooling systems. I'm not saying You know, I keep thinking, would I want one of these built on my farm? How, you know, I built my farm the way it is to be left as a legacy to my kids and my grandkids and my great grandkids. And so I don't want a data farm on my farm, so I don't want to force that or be it someplace else. On the other hand, when you put restrictions that are so narrowly focused on one industry, does that eliminate any other industry that wants to come to Pine County? We've been trying very hard to bolster our economic development and manufacturing end of things. And so I worry about that. I agreed to a moratorium in July, and I think it was the right move because we do have a lot of new stuff to learn, and we want to try to get it as right as we can. And so I still believe that we need to take a pause here and try to figure this out the best we can.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
A couple things. First, I'd like to maybe talk about the 6-month moratorium that we, you know, the time frame that we put on. And I think in our previous discussion, I did bring up the issue that which seems to happen more frequently than we would like, that nothing happens until the 11th hour. And then it sometimes becomes a rush to get something done because the time is running out. I think personally, I wanted to avoid that. So that was one of my reasons for supporting a 6-month moratorium. And I think that was also based on the information, which I learned something new today. I was under the impression that a moratorium could only last 1 year, and we could not extend beyond that. But our county attorney said, actually, that's not true, that we could do a 1 year and then extend that. Is that correct?
That's not, Mr. Commissioner, that's correct. That's under 394.34, becomes effective to 1 year and then a 1-year renewal thereafter.
So with that, I think that maybe changes my timeline thinking because I didn't want us to wait 11 months and then be hastily having to decide something. And thus that's why the 6-month in my mind. But I'm certainly open to, doing the maximum of a year, knowing that if we need to extend, we can, but not necessarily relying on that. That makes sense. My thoughts.
So you're saying just move it to a year now?
Yeah, I don't know if we've got to that yet. We're still in discussion. Did you have anything else you wanted to?
No.
At the moment. Yeah. Did you have anything, Matt?
No, that was my own thing, was the timeline. I don't even know if it started the day we did it. Or I think it did. When we did.
I think we're deciding that today.
Okay.
We'll decide that today.
That's where I'm confused. And I know we had a long discussion on extending it 6 months what I worry about is, how government works.
Yeah.
We have so many other meetings, and everybody else that's gonna be working on this, half of them have jobs and whatever, so is there enough time? That's where I sit.
And I do believe they've already been working on it or started to, I mean, I know the zoning board, they're real proactive, probably before this, we're working on some stuff. So question that I had, well, yeah. Couple things I had. So a lot of stuff has been brought up about transparency and letting people know. If people don't know, I mean, I have 4 children, own a business in town, very active, coach, multiple amount of sports. My phone number is readily available, whichever one you want. I got a couple of them. And, so we do very, very much try, and over the years that I've been on the county board, we've talked about it, about how to get stuff out to the public and how to get stuff out to the people. I wish we had this many people at every board meeting. Honestly, it doesn't hurt my feelings at all. That way, the more knowledge, each one of you people all talk to multiple people, and it just gets our story out. This board is very, very transparent and try to get the information out to people. We have a lot of hard decisions that we have to make, and a lot of them that business needs to go on daily. And some people like it, some people don't like it. You've seen some people that are very, they like to get down and dirty about stuff. And a lot of times it's just because they don't know everything. So anybody that thinks, hey, this is the magic ticket to get information out, I've heard that a few times today. Let us know. Reach out to any one of us and say, hey, this is the way. But we do typically try, paper. I know some people think paper's old, some people think it's new. The little bit of social media. We've explored some social media stuff. It seems like our sheriff, his page does well, but is that a platform for the county board to get information out? I don't know. And then, so lost my train of thought, sorry. But with that, one of my questions is the NDAs, the restrictions on the NDAs. Is that something we can put in an ordinance or in a moratorium? Or is that just something that we all can commit ourselves? I mean, like I said, I without some sort of legal counsel, I would never, I am responsible for the county board. Anything that comes through my email, my phone, anything gets forwarded off to people a lot smarter than me in that situation. So I try to get counseling on all that. Just wondering if openly, publicly, we can do that or not, or part of the moratorium. I don't know.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, with respect to the NDAs, that's something that I guess I would suggest you not put into the actual moratorium. Moratorium is basically deals just with the pause on what we're learning about here. With that being said, the board can commit to something like that. I think St. Louis County Board got into some hot water because a few of them signed NDAs. I think might have been involved in the city of Hermantown too. And I guess the argument for that was that it gives government a seat at the table. But of course, the argument against that is that they're committing to not disclosing some public information. There's sometimes even a quorum of commissioners involved in these things. And so there's a lack of transparency with that. I guess from a legal standpoint, I don't think it's a good idea for any board member to sign an NDA with a corporation, but that would just be my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
I honestly, I'd never heard of a county board signing an NDA in 20 years being on a county board until apparently the city council did it. I don't know, but we've never even been approached, as far as I know, at the Pine County Board on any subject for an NDA.
Yeah, and with that, I guess I would just commit that, I would, if it ever did come to me, I would try to be as transparent as possible. And I guess we'd have to deal with that when it happened, but being aware, talking about it ahead of time, obviously plan for said situation, and we can have more discussion about it. So, any other discussion? So with that, I don't know, so we gotta talk about the ordinance now. And I don't know, Commissioner Waldham, did you have anything you want to add to any of our discussion before we kind of move on the ordinance?
No, I don't, Mr. Chair. Thanks for asking.
All right, so. Yeah, so we do have an ordinance reaffirming the adoption of Pine County Ordinance 2026-15. Does anybody want to discuss this ordinance and or move it or have a discussion on? I think like Commissioner Nelson said, with the 6 month, we had guidance from staff and some of the zoning board that they think they could get it done in 6 months. Maybe, and I agreed with him, because at the time we did know we could extend it. And at the time, was not aware of the second year on there. So, I mean, I think I would be fine with looking at a 1 year if somebody wanted. And I do think we start today. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think we started on July.
I think just to clarify it.
So,
Well, I just want to be clear. And the only reason I say that is because we have a year.
yeah,
So what happened, what was to happen since July 7th?
I just think it just nothing. It wasn't really binding anyways, right? Yeah. Yeah, without this public hearing, it wasn't really binding. So that was just, yeah, so nothing.
So that was just, we were just ahead of the game there.
Yeah, it got the ball rolling.
I think if somebody's making a motion, they could just mention that it replaces.
Okay. All right, so we'll entertain a motion. Somebody wants to make that motion?
I'll move that we reaffirm the resolution with two changes. One, that section 7, that it be in effect for 12 months rather than 6. And effective date, it's a little bit of a sticky wicket because we did pass it. But since they're, but I'm willing to go with the new date for today.
My only question, Roger, is does that make that, we started it today, does it make it then a 13-month moratorium? Because we've been under a moratorium for a month.
Correct. That's my, that's a little bit of
My worry too.
I think,
I don't want to muddy
I think that's where Matt was coming from, and I look this way. I think we've already had a 1 month moratorium. So I think really we have to go back to that date.
Well, I do think that the 1 month was kind of null and void. If somebody wanted to
No.
challenge us on it,
In my mind, it was a moratorium.
yeah,
We put a moratorium on it.
But we
ready. We were ready at the time we made that moratorium. We were ready to.
Was it legally though? A moratorium is you have a public.
I don't think you're on the board, but
No.
I appreciate your.
all right. Yeah, from the public though, we gotta try to keep this. So I think part of the deal is though that it wasn't really binding. The first one wasn't. So because we didn't meet
I
the
just
state
don't want
guidelines.
the next board to face that issue.
Yep.
That they've now had a 13-month moratorium.
Yep.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
so my motion includes the date of effective August 18th.
Okay. That's your motion?
It's my motion.
All right.
I'll second that.
Okay.
As long as we're comfortable with getting, no matter what, if we lose that month, if somebody contests something at some point in time, we still can renew it again for another year. right? From whatever date we decide. Okay,
Correct.
I will second that.
Okay. And we'll open up for discussion. And again, these are some of the discussions that the county board needs to have. And I'm glad you guys are all part of this because if there was something that came down, this is what these guys, they're not against not doing it today. They're trying to cover the county. The county is susceptible for a lot of lawsuits and a lot of stuff. And that is why the questions are asked. And I know it's very emotional and everything like that, but these are the stuff that we ask. And it's not that we're asking it because we're for or against something. It's just, it really happens. There's county boards out there. We have one really close to us, not with a moratorium or anything like that, but they spent what, $40 million in lawsuits against another organization and broke the county. I mean, seriously did that. And that's what we're here to try to mitigate that stuff. So that's why some of these questions are being answered. So just bear with us through this process and I appreciate it. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just clarify.
Yep.
So the motion is to reaffirm ordinance 2026-15 with a change to section 7 from 6 months to 12 months. And then the effective date will be as of today.
Yep. Okay. Any other discussion here?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, just to clarify then, back to Commissioner Ludwig, trying to figure out this timeline. Is it then in agreement also with Commissioner Holland? The moratorium has been on, so is this or is this not now a 13-month term? I'd hate to have maybe our county attorney, Mr. Frederickson, could weigh in on this just for clarification.
I do think we've already talked about that, is that the original moratorium did not meet state guidelines, right? So
So, Mr. Chair, I mean, it's technically in kind of a legal no man's land because statute is not specific on having a public hearing for this.
Yeah.
But there was some case law where I can't remember who the parties were, but I imagine it was a corporation suing a county because there wasn't a public hearing, and that came up in that case law. It wasn't particular guidance, but it was an issue. And so in talking to the county administrator about this, we felt that to make sure that this is even above that case law, we better have a public hearing and set this in stone. So because of that gray area, I suggest it's the discretion of the board of whether it starts if you knew that maybe that month prohibited an application or something like that. We don't have any knowledge of that, then that may be an issue, but there's county administrator indicated that there was no such thing. So I think you would be safe to set it from today forward.
Okay, there's no applications. Nobody's attempted to start a data center. No. Okay. That clarifies. Thank you.
Mhm. Any other discussion here? We have a motion and a second. Okay, with that, we'll call a roll call.
Commissioner Levitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Walden.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, I don't know if the rest of you guys want to stick around for the rest of our board meeting, but at this time.
Before people leave, I would sincerely like to thank you for showing up, taking the time out of your day to come and voice your opinion. I appreciate it.
Thank all of you for.
And I would encourage everybody to stick around, especially for our budget stuff. Yeah, we'll just take a couple minute break for everybody to clear out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Flags for you. That's okay. Yeah, apparently that one side. That was not plugged in. We'll make it so that it is. More than just plugging it in. Yeah, this one's. No. We can just do that. That should be fine. Yes.
But you can stay for at any time.
Yeah. Well, you could have, but it was already written out.
But that way you get rid of the 13-month discussion.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Can we get a copy of the agenda thing?
That would be. Or there should have been copies. I suppose they were all done.
So that is.
Okay, I'll ask her, thank you.
Is someone has some improvements, side their laws. Yep, and that was the time that it happened. Six, there was a handful of them. Yeah. Pull it on this one, yeah, finder use a phone.
Well, they're good. If I could just make a suggestion.
Yeah.
That you must have a website for that, the work.
Yep.
It's a really expensive process.
No one offers that. I think that would be too cumbersome for you guys.
No. Like, I think the more. I should look, because,
Right.
you know, that's where I get. Everything, they don't send them. Everything right out there. I think put like some stuff on the website.
You know, data center updates.
Yep.
Right?
This is where my mind is going. You need a website. And like you can even, if our website somehow has features. where you can-
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a great.
Mine was going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then, I know, I mean.
Yep.
And then some.
Yep.
Right, so we have to think of ways. And,
I rely heavily on ours. And our staff is very intelligent and.
well, but they're also very already full. They have to do, so, but that would work for, I think, most people.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was what I'm where my mind was.
Roger.
Fine.
That was nothing to me. I love it when people, I don't.
You don't.
But that doesn't bother me.
Well, it was nothing that we. Wasn't in disagreement, not in disagreement with what we had already done.
No, I was just worried about, are we gonna get caught with that?
Well, we're gonna, well, we may just, we're gonna reconvene the meeting.
Get out the end if we do.
Yeah, and we will move on to facility committee report.
But you know what, there's no.
Looks like.
Okay. I will do the facility committee. We met, I took Matt's place because he was double booked. The thing that came out of it, probably more than, you know, the regular business was, as we know, Soil and Water has moved from across the street over to here. And over the umpteen years that we've had Soil and Water occupy one of our buildings, we've had this kind of verbal agreement with them. So Paul and Kelly sat down and wrote up a memorandum of understanding. And just so when, as time goes by, people leave and people don't remember what was promised and what was taken away and everything. So, we had a discussion. I made a motion. It did not get a second. But I do bring it forward to this board for consideration that we sign this memorandum of understanding with Soil and Water. It's actually spells out what we have been allowing them to, or what we have agreed to have them use certain things in this building. It's just in writing what practice has done in the past.
All right. Too much technology.
Jeez.
So with that, yeah, yeah,
We can have a discussion.
yeah, that's how I was just
Yeah.
kind of curious, is a little bit of discussion on that. So these are all stuff that we donate to Soil and Water in kind. And we talk a lot about partnerships and the good, bad, or in between, and but this is one of them partnerships, Soil and Water. Yeah, go
If
ahead.
we go back in history, I don't even know how many years ago it was, we had Soil and Water used to be housed in a separate building. We donated a certain amount of money to them.
Mr. Chair.
To operate, and we also donated enough money for them to pay the rent. And so when they moved to a Pine County facility, we cut back an amount of money we gave to them. And in exchange for that, they got basically free rent from the county. So that's been a continuation up to this point.
Okay. Go ahead, look.
No, I was just gonna say that. So they, they're a completely separate government body. And they have to do they work on private land. And where we can't work but the money comes through us and through grants and stuff. So we pass through to them because we do that. So we've always had that working agreement. So the private landowners can they have to have a place to work, right?
Right.
Or set up their offices. So and then we basically have space in the building, and it's like Steve explained. So we've always done business that way.
And it's to my understanding that with this, it does help Soil and Water as well, apply some in-kind, grant matching. So that's where this kind of helps some of that out. They can use this to leverage some funds as well.
And it's a lot easier to do when you have a piece of paper, like a memorandum of understanding.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question for our county attorney. You're getting a lot of questions today.
I'm already.
So if a committee passes a resolution or, and it comes to the whole board, the whole board does not necessarily have to, it can actually vote against that. Conversely, if a committee does not pass something, though, that doesn't bind the whole board.
Correct, yeah.
So, okay. So yeah, I just want, because it didn't pass, and I just wanted to, make sure that our procedures were correct, and that's not binding on the whole board.
No.
Either way.
It's difficult in a committee where you have two commissioners and you're not in agreement. There's, it can't pass because there's only two people that can vote. So
They can only refer it to the board anyway.
yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, there was a couple things on this, action items, but let's just, we'll hammer this one out quick. Or not quick, or whatever, we'll hammer it out. I guess my question is Commissioner Wald, how come you didn't support it? Was there, I wasn't there Was there a reason that you didn't or just?
Reason that I didn't, or just what? You're gonna finish?
Yeah, I was just curious why you didn't support it. You vote no a lot of times, but you never give us a reason why. So this is your opportunity.
I never give you a reason why. Okay. Interesting. Well, it just sounds like I got the clarification I was looking for with what you had said, that, we're, have some partnerships. Holland, commented on, there was the donated dollars. It's a separate government body with Ludwig. It just had stated we're a pass through. Ludwig had just stated with the grant money. I was just looking for more information, and sounds like I got it today. I appreciate everybody's comments.
Okay. Sounds good. So did you make a motion to?
I will.
Okay.
I will move that we sign this memorandum of understanding.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We got a second by Ludwig. Is there any other discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, go ahead, Deb.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldham,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, and then we got another action item. You want to go through that?
Is it? I lost my.
The spend an additional $2,400. Or I can just. read it.
Well,
Or,
do you want to, that Commissioner, or?
Yeah, please.
Sure. So as we were working through the 1610 building across the parking lot here and the remodel for the sheriff's office. Previously, we had approved and planned to move forward with installing cameras, a few cameras in that building. As Ryan was getting additional quotes for those cameras, one of the vendors brought up the fact that if we just simply tie that camera system back to Pine City anytime there's a power outage or an internet outage, those cameras will not function. And so the suggestion from that vendor was to have a separate video server here in Sandstone to avoid those interruptions. And also one positive of that would be that we could future integration of the impound lot cameras as well, because those are completely on their own right now. But that would cost an additional $2,425 if we would want to do that. But again, that would ensure those power and internet interruptions do not cause video problems, and then also just set us up for a future ability to integrate the impound lot.
okay. So we need a motion.
With that, I'll move that.
Okay. We got a second.
Second.
Okay, Ludwig second. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on the camera? Cameras. Server, sorry. Okay, hearing none, go ahead, Devin, call the roll.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldham,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
All right, move on to number 3, Personnel Committee report.
So do you want me to take all of them and just do a motion at the end or?
Yeah, I think so. That's very good.
We had our meeting on August 10th, and I'll start out with the sheriff's office and the jail. We ratify the retirement of part-time corrections officer Robert Paulson effective August 1st, 2026, and approve the backfill or recommend to approve the backfill of the position and any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. Ratify the retirement of part-time court security officer Michael Manther effective July 30, 2026, and approve the backfill of the position and any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. And acknowledge the transition of full-time correction officer Troy Parker to a part-time status effective August 23rd, 2026. And approve the backfill of the full-time position and any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. Assessor Recorder's Office acknowledge the resignation of Recorder Specialist Caitlin Tompkins effective August 11th, 2026, and approve the backfill of the position and any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. Acknowledge the retirement of Assessment Tech Diane Johnson effective October 2nd, 2026, and approve backfill of position and any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. On to probation. Ratify resignation of career agent Devin Peterson effective July 29th, 2026, and approve the backfill of position and any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. In Public Works, ratify resignation of highway maintenance worker Mitchell McGrew effective July 23rd, 2026. Backfill will be considered at a later date. Land Department, acknowledge retirement of Land Commissioner Forester Greg Beck effective October 30th, 2026, and approve the backfill of the position and any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. And in administration, approve the revised policy language to Pine County Policy and Procedures, Section 10.3.2, compensation for promotion. And I'll just add a couple of things, Mr. Chair. On the Caitlin Tompkins, she went back to college in the assessor recorder's office. And then on probation, Devin Peterson, he went to Anoka County. And the rest are pretty much it. So I will move those, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I will second them, and with the discussion, it looks like a lot on there. There was 4 retirements, a transition from full-time to part-time, and one promotion, like you said, the probation promotion, that was he was taking a promotion somewhere else, not in Pine County. And then so that was my discussion. Anybody else have any discussion? Okay, hearing none, go ahead, Deb, and call the roll.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldam,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to number 4, 2027 preliminary budget presentation. So we will start off with Central Minnesota Council on Aging and Lori. I appreciate you sticking through it. You must have got a short straw today. You had to sit through all that. So.
They were that public hearing first, though. But it was very educational, so.
Okay.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm Lori Burleson. I'm the director at the Central Minnesota Council on Aging. So we are a nonprofit organization, but we are designated by the Minnesota Board on Aging to serve as the regional area agency on aging for the 14 counties. And while we are a nonprofit, our board is all county commissioners, and then we have an advisory that is a mix of older adults and senior service providers. And on our board, Commissioner Hallen has served on our board for many years now and have always appreciated his leadership and has been our former board chair for many years as well. And Patrick Meacham is from Pine County here, serves on our advisory committee. So Pine County is very well representative there. So as area agencies on aging, so every county in the nation is actually covered by an area agency on aging through the Older Americans Act. That was established back in 1965 by Lyndon Johnson. So just a little bit about our core functions as an area agency on aging. One, we are contracted by the Minnesota Board on Aging to operate and serve as the Minnesota Aging Pathways, formerly Senior Linkage Line, for the region. And under that, people are able to contact our office either in person or via phone. We do have staff located throughout our region to do in-person assistance too, and really helping people evaluate their situation and get connected to community resources and supports. Under this role too, our office does all the nursing home pre-admission screens for the entire state. That also falls under MAP. That used to be a function of the counties, and then back in 2010, that transitioned to the area agencies on aging. And then we have a funding role where we allocate out federal Older Americans Act dollars that I'll speak on shortly here. And then we do program development where we work with communities on developing resources and do advocacy and systems change work. So I'm not going to go into a lot of data, but just a couple things to point out. Minnesota is home now of 1.3 million older adults. And we currently now have more older adults than we have school-age children. So just as following World War II, when the baby boom generation was born, they really transformed our society, and communities started investing in infrastructure to support the school-age children with more schools, more parks, daycares really started to be developed after that. And that was all designed to address the rapidly growing children and family population. We now face the same responsibility of looking at how we invest in our older adult population and really start thinking about infrastructure more broadly than roads, bridges, broadband, but also start thinking about the infrastructure that is needed to really support older adults as they age and can continue to be independent in our communities. So thinking about things such as access to healthcare, access to affordable housing that has universal floor plan design, looking at what the transportation resources are. Those are things that we need to start paying, I think, more attention to. So just a few data points about Pine County itself. Before we talk about services, it really kind of helps to understand some of these data points. So Pine County, 30% of your residents currently are over age 60, which is higher, much higher than the state at 22%. We also see a 3.4% of your 85 plus population, which is once again much higher than the states. And when we look at the oldest cohort of the older cohort of the 60 plus and think of the 85 plus, this is often when individuals start to rely more broadly on formal resources outside what family and friends can provide. And so it's very important that communities have the right mix of home and community-based services available for their residents. The living arrangements matter as well. Nearly 1 in 4 older adults in Pine County live alone, and this increases sharply with age. So if you think of a female that's 75 years old, 43% of them will be living alone. And 2 in every 10 older adults with cognitive decline and dementia live alone in the community. So it's very important for communities to have supportive services available, especially as someone who lives alone, they have fewer built-in supports of family, friends. And so if a fall happens or a healthcare event happens and they're admitted to the hospital and maybe discharged to the nursing home for short-term rehab, for them to return home, they need to have supportive services in place. Disability is another key factor. 35% of your 60 plus population is living with 1 or more disabilities and often multiple disabilities. And once again, this is significantly higher than the state at 30%. So, mobility, hearing, vision, cognition, these limitations all make it harder for a person to take care of their house, do the daily chores. Transportation can sometimes be an issue, preparing meals. And then if you look at finances, 9.9% of Pine County is living below poverty of your 60-plus population, once again, higher than the state average at 7.6%. So when you take this in aggregate and look at an older adult population, higher percentage living alone, higher percentage living with disability, higher percentage living in poverty, this is where, we really have to look at what are the community supports that are available to help these people. So why this matters is majority of older adults want to live in their own communities and in their own homes. But to do so, they often need supportive services. And when we look at the Older Americans Act programs, that impacts about 1 in every 6 older adults. The alternative is 4.5% live in assisted livings, which costs an average of $45,000 a year. And recently was at a meeting and I heard that nearly 70% of all spend down onto waivered services and onto medical assistance is happening in assisted livings. So making sure that people aren't prematurely moving to an assisted living is important, and making sure that there's the right mix of supportive services that can help them live in their own homes longer is important. 2.4% live in nursing homes. As I said earlier, we do all the pre-admission screens for nursing home placements, and we do about 61,000 pre-admission screens a year. And 73% of those individuals going into a nursing home are expected to be for less than 30 days. So a lot of short-term rehab is happening in nursing homes. But in order for them to be discharged and go back home, they often need some help, whether it's temporarily or long-term, with home care, with transportation, with med management, other support services. And the nursing home care costs about an average of $141,000 a year, with 69% of that being paid for with public dollars. The other thing that's important to look at is that in Minnesota, we have about 840,000 family, friends, and neighbors that are supporting and providing care to loved ones. This equates to about 480 million hours of support that's being provided. If this was paid support, it would be about $11 billion a year to the Minnesota's budget. So how we support family caregivers so that they don't become burnt out. We know that people move to a nursing home or move to an assisted living often because those family, friends, and neighbors are burnt out. And so how we can continue to support family caregivers is extremely important. So this here pyramid is, and I apologize, I'm just noticing now that I have the 2024 pyramid and not the 2025, so I do apologize. But the numbers don't vary all that much. So what this is showing is the amount of dollars that have been invested of the Older Americans Act in our 14-county region. I think what's important here to know is that the state of Minnesota receives about $22 million a year of federal Older Americans Act funding. And then they distribute that to the 7 area agencies on aging based on the interstate funding formula. And so the one thing I would note is that this was 2024, that was 4.6 million. In 2025, we received 3.7 million. And that decrease in funding is because of the sunsetting of the American Rescue COVID relief dollars. And then the combination of the updated new interstate funding formula that hadn't been updated since the 80s went into place in 2025. And with that, we saw reductions. So when we look at the $22 million statewide of federal Older Americans Act dollars, that equates to about $17.31 per older adult in the state. And so when we receive our allocation, our board and advisory goes through a process and really looks at, with the array of services that can be funded under the Older Americans Act, where do we locally need to invest those dollars? What are the most critical services that we look to invest in? So they make those determinations, then we do allocate out grants and contracts to providers locally to deliver the services. And with the Older Americans Act, the eligibility is 60 plus. There is no means testing, so you're not looking at income and assets with it, but there's targeting. So we very clearly are trying to target. So for example, with meals, we're trying to target people at high nutritional risk that are low income and frail. The services are provided to individuals on a voluntary contribution basis. So they're provided with information on what the full cost of the service is, and then asked if they're to provide a donation, but whether they donate or not, they're still provided the service. So I always think of the Older Americans Act funding as kind of being that safety net. So we're trying to service people that are just above medical assistance, but often lack the resources to pay privately for services, and kind of keeping them in the safety net and filling in with services to low-income individuals. So this here, though, is specifically Pine County residents served last year in 2025, so we have complete data. So you can see with Minnesota Aging Pathways, about just over 1,100 options counseling sessions provided to individuals. With homemaker services, this is actually with a contract that we have with Family Pathways, 908 hours of homemaking. This would be things such as laundry, grocery shopping, house cleaning that is provided to 37 older adults from Pine County. Health assessment, this is interesting. So 12 individuals. So the health assessment contract actually is with Kanabec County Public Health. So last year, there was 12 individuals who went over to Mora for health assessment from Kanabec County. Congregate dining and home delivered meals. This is with Catholic Charities. And you can see here, 3,270 congregate meals. Those would have been done in our congregate sites in Pine County are in Pine City and in Hinckley. And then an additional 20,141 home delivered meals to 147 Pine County residents last year. This also would have been done from Catholic Charities. So with home delivered meals, we do a combination of hot daily meals to older adults that are homebound and unable to get out to go to a congregate site. But this also does include frozen meal distribution sites. So during COVID, we started to hear from food shelves that they were seeing a 40% increase in older adults using the food shelves, and many of them for the first time. And since COVID, they have remained to have a higher number of older adults going to the food shelves. And so Catholic Charities partnered with food shelves, and we have two food shelf distribution sites. One is at Ascove Community Center, and then the other one is the food shelf that Family Pathways does in Sandstone. And what happens there is that once a month, they'll have a senior day at the food shelf where Catholic Charities will bring up to 30 frozen meals, packs. They're done in packs of 10. So depending upon the individual and how many frozen meals they can take, they come to the food shelf, they pick up their food commodities, and then they also get these 30 frozen meals with them as well. And that's been really our way of additionally trying to target really those lower income seniors that are at high nutritional risk. The caregiver consultation and education, this is done by Family Pathways. And this is really, the consultation is really working. It's done by a social worker who is meeting one-on-one with family caregivers and providing them guidance and support throughout their caregiver journey. So they may have a family member that was just diagnosed, for example, with Alzheimer's. The caregiver consultant will meet with them and talk with them about the early stages. And then as they progress, they'll talk with them about their needs throughout their caregiver journey. So they're not getting a whole dumping of information all at one time with them, but they're meeting with them throughout their caregiver journey and supporting them and getting them connected to services. And then the legal assistance, this is done by Min Legal Aid. They are out of St. Cloud, but they have time where they're in person. They have, if you've ever seen like the Justice Bus out here, but they have set time in each of the 14 counties once a month that they're out to provide individual assistance, but 48 hours of legal consultation was provided by them. So this is actual impact last year to Pine County residents. So when we look at this, you'll see that with those Older Americans Act services that I just went through, that was $251,991 of federal Older Americans Act dollars that went for services specifically to Pine County residents last year. This represents 6.8% of our regional Older Americans Act funding. In comparison, Pine County is 4.7% of our 60-plus population. So you can see that, I mean, you're getting a little bit higher percentage of the investment compared to the 60-plus population. If you look at this last slide, this is our request to Pine County. So we are requesting $3,131 from Pine County in 2027 and a commissioner representative to serve on our board. And I am sad to see Steve retiring, and we will certainly miss him on our board. And I will very much try to recruit him to our advisory at some point. As we have been able to do from some former county commissioners that have retired. But we have tremendously appreciated all the leadership and guidance you have provided us over the years. Our match requests, I do fully understand the counties, your budgets are very tight, and I fully recognize that. In total, we are seeking $62,630 from the 14 counties. So that is prorated. So we prorate that based on the 60-plus population. And then that's how we come up with the $3,131. And last year, I know that with your budget, you weren't able to do the full amount, and that's understandable. And the amount that you provided was very much appreciated. The county match we use that to meet our administrative match to draw down the federal Older Americans Act. So your return on investment in your case, your return on investment was almost $252,000 of federal Older Americans Act, that was invested specifically right here in Pine County with, services that really keep older adults in their own homes. And that really is what the $3,131 is leveraging. So every match dollar returns many times over in their value. And we started receiving the match. So back in 2005, we had a consolidation of area agencies on aging. Previously, Central Minnesota on Aging covered Stearns, Benton, Sherburne, and Wright. And we've had a long history for 30-plus years of receiving the match from the counties. And then when we consolidated, we actually assumed prior to that, the East Central Regional Development Commission was the area agency on aging. And so when we took that over, that was back when we started going to each of the counties here then for the match. And so that's kind of a little bit of the history there. We have long appreciated really the partnership, and we do see it as a partnership with the counties to be able to really leverage fully the federal funding that is available to us. And so just thank you very much for your continued support, and respectfully request continued support in 2027. So,
Thanks, Lori.
yeah.
If I could,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, you and staff are so in tune to what happens with the older American Act. I remember telling you 20 years ago almost, when I got on that board, I don't understand even the language you're talking.
Mhm.
And you laughed and said, well, if you worked here full time, it might take you a couple of years, but over time, I actually understand what you talk about when you talk about B and C, and
Mhm.
you know, it actually makes sense. But the thing that makes sense to me is we get $250,000 of service for a $3,100 contribution.
Mhm.
That's pretty good return.
Some of the numbers that you had we were a lot higher and older, than the state. In the region, do you know is this region kind of that way too, or is it just us?
So, that's a very good question. So what what I would say is that, you know, Pine, Cass, Pine and Cass, you know, you're at 30%, and Pine, I think Cass County is at 33%. So you're second highest. I just looked at some data for Sherburne County, and I want to say they're at like 18. I mean, so you're significantly higher. So you do have an older population. The living alone is pretty on cue with what we see in the region. Interesting enough, we've been working with Wilder Research on and organizing some focus groups for them, because our region has a much higher population of solo seniors than the rest of the state. And not quite sure what's driving that, but they in particular were interested in looking at the aspect of the impact that that's having on people with health procedures, like delaying a health procedure because they don't have somebody that can stay with them, or they don't have somebody that can support them after their procedure is done. So they're foregoing things. The disabilities, I think our region is like 32%. So you are higher there, and the poverty at 9%. I know region-wide, we're at like 8.2%. You do have some higher factors. We do have a data profile book that I certainly can email or send, either a hard copy or an email, that actually goes through by county and then region and state. That is based off of recent. And I can certainly share that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just always curious. We talked a lot about it after COVID. A lot of people, you know, had cabins up this way and they located to them, and it's just always good to know what the population is and kind of what you figure in the region and what you figure in the state.
It's forever, lagged in public transportation, so it's got that factor going against us. So we do have pretty good access to healthcare now in Pike County. If you happen to live in that area, where you can get a doctor without relying, it's very, very difficult. And if you live in St. Cloud, you can call an Uber if you have to.
Yeah,
but you can
not here.
City bus. We can't call an Uber in Pine City. I was sitting at a public transportation meeting in St. Paul, and the guy from Uber and Lyft were sitting next to me. And I said, well, it's not even an option for us. Oh, yeah, we're every place. He takes his thing out. He goes, look, here, Uber's available in Pine City. I go, okay, put in, try it. Here's my address. Try to get a car. He goes, he waits and it's going around and around and around. Oh, my God, you're right. You know? And I said, it's not even, cost isn't even the option. It's just not available.
Right. And yet when you think about in this is common in rural Minnesota, you have a higher percent of 60 plus, it should be a market.
Yeah, you think so,
Yeah.
but it's not. Apparently, because nobody's doing it.
Right.
Anybody else got any questions? Okay,
Thanks, Lori.
yeah, thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Steve, I'll maybe mail you some of those profile booklets and you
Yeah.
can share that.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Everyone.
All right, we'll move on to B, East Central Regional Library, 2027 library budget. Who's taking it, you?
I'm looking at Roger.
Okay, Roger's taking it.
Either way.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Roger.
That's the budget request. $392,128.
Okay.
It's a 1.5% increase for our county. Yeah, that was, just like every budget, when you're working with 6 counties, it's a give and take. Yeah, there's counties that want a deeper cut. There's counties that thought that this was too much. And that's the compromise that we ended up with. And I will remind us that if you look at what's happened over the last 2 years, the library, that this is a $6 increase over what it was 2 years ago. So I think we've done our job there.
Commissioner,
I think you did well.
so our service is gonna stay the same as they were for the last year?
Last year, as part of the budget, we end up with some reductions in staffing at our library hours. This is a no reduction of staffing because we felt, at least, we can't keep cutting our library open hours. That's not accessible. So
Same as last year.
same as, yeah, we're not going back, but we're staying the same.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I got a question.
Yeah,
Yeah, what's the state mandated amount for the library? The minimum that we pay, that we are mandated to pay?
it's a couple pages down from the budget request there, 256,664. Page 96 of your 99 page agenda. Okay. All right. Now we're on the budget discussion. Now you get to go.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I've just laid out for you, now that we have made it through all of the budget presentations as to where we're at, and hopefully can start having a conversation about where we want to go. As a reminder, statutorily by September 30th, we need to adopt a preliminary levy. That levy, we simply can't go higher than it when it comes to the final budget in December. So we've got about a month to go to really try to make some decisions as to where we will be with our preliminary levy, and if there's cuts we want to make, if there's any reserves we want to consider spending. As we put together the budget back in June, when I originally presented to you, of course, we're working with the data that we have at that time and trying to make some assumptions. We are now 6 weeks later than that, so we've gotten some additional data and able to update things in the budget. So for example, I had originally estimated a 5% increase for the library. And so now that it's only a 1.5% increase, I was able to make that adjustment. But then unfortunately, you will have things that come through like our estimate of our county program aid, which now comes through as nearly $75,000 less for 2027 than it is for 2026. And that's not that the bucket changed, it's just that it reruns through the formula every year. And so your amount unfortunately does, in our case, is changing to the not helpful side. So when all of those changes that we've gotten have been incorporated into the budget, I have a little chart on the board request that shows you that in each fund, the amount of levy dollars or amount of deficit remaining, which is nearly $2.4 million. I do want to remind everyone that the 2026 budget included almost $1.2 million of one-time funds. So that $2.4 million deficit, like we created $1.2 million of it as part of our 2026 budget. And so that isn't a problem that we created today. It's a problem we created a year ago. That now, again, we need to consider how we will address it for 2027. In past years, we've really addressed our budgets with a multi-pronged approach of expense reductions, levy increases, use of reserves. I think we're going to have to look at a very similar approach for 2027. I know there's always a lot of focus on that levy increase piece, but I think the other two pieces are equally as important. But that levy increase piece is always a little bit of a mystery of if we did X levy increase, how does it affect an actual property? As property values change and tax capacity changes from one property type to the next, you get a shift in who's paying the burden of the taxes. And so just because your value went up 5% or down 5%, that your taxes are not going to follow exactly with that. So you have that colorful sheet that I put together annually that gives you at different incremental percentages how much individual taxes on real parcels would change for 2027. And the list includes, of course, all 5 commissioners, some businesses. It includes some properties identified by some commissioners that they're interested in. It includes our senator, our representative. And actually, I also included all of the commissioner candidates because they may have to be working and be answering to this on that list.
It's all public information.
Correct. It's all public information.
Yeah. So. And I see you got the growth chart on there too.
Right, and then also last year we started the last page on the growth chart that just shows, what's the total value in the county, how much new construction was there, that percentage of new construction. Essentially, you should be able to raise the levy at least that and have no effect on anyone because you've got new values coming in to help pay for that. So that just shows a comparison of that new construction percentage, a historical look at what our levy increase actually was, and then what the effective levy increase was. And so I have 2027 added in there, which we did have a higher new construction percentage. It's always right about 1%, but this year we're at 1.1%, which really is the highest since kind of those COVID years of a lot of construction going like crazy.
Okay. All right, well. Yeah. You guys got any thoughts on any of this?
Well, I certainly think a 3-legged approach is if how that gets divided out. Do we take half of it, say half of it has to be levy or half of it has to be, but the other 2 has to be cuts or reserve, and then We don't do a quarter, half, quarter, or we do a third, which we've done in the past. Numbers are bigger this year. I think to do a third. I do think there's some room for some cuts. Certain areas and I think we could, I don't know what all those, you know, if we can get 500,000, 700,000, so maybe chopping services. We're just gonna chop services, that's all there is to it.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I look at these, the first page and the different funds, their deficits. Particularly the HHS one. That is the one that, to me, is by no fault of their own. That I think can be attributed directly to our state and federal policy that has pushed that down to us. And those increased costs, I mean, I think Becky went through those and what those specific different programs will end up costing us extra because it was in its administration costs. It's a case where we don't have a say in who gets benefits or who doesn't. We just follow the law. But the increased burden of administration that's being required of us is where is driving a bulk of that cost. In fact, I would say almost all of it is driven by that. And part of being transparent as a county is I don't think we can. I don't think we're trying to hide that. I think we need to make that apparent to our public that a portion, well, so what we did last year, we looked at, and this is maybe a little different from other counties. Some counties followed this and some didn't. They maybe padded their increase a little bit last year just because they looked what was going to happen on the horizon. And I think we saw that same thing happening, but we chose instead, we could make cuts. We did that, and we were not gonna sort of hedge our bets and levy a little bit more just because we could see that coming. We wanted immediate relief for those residents of Pine County. And I mean, these are our expenses and this is what we're gonna do, part of being transparent. But at the same time, if things go up and are beyond our control, I think the public needs to hear that that's not our issue. Unfortunately, we're the ones that are gonna have to pay for it, but it's our federal and our state. And it's maybe not our specific legislatures, but it's, legislators, but it is in general, it's our governor, it's our legislature that chose not to deal with this issue. That was pushed a lot on us by the feds, and part of it's because we're unique in the sense of HHS is administered by the counties, by only like 5 states in the whole United States and the whole union. And actually 2 or 3 of them dealt with that at the state level and took care of that. So we are in the minority where our state did not take care of that. And they said, well, goodness, we'll just let the counties foot the extra bill, especially irritating when we had $18 billion, trillion, or whatever it was, billion surplus a few years ago. And now they're saying, and that's all gone. And now they're saying, sorry, counties, you'll just have to foot the bill for this. And so as bad as I feel for having to raise taxes because of that, I think it's only transparent that whatever those increases are, that ends up, because we asked them to do the cuts last year and they did in HHS. So unfortunately, that almost 4% increase, I don't think we have a choice but to end up putting that out there as you know, our taxpayers are gonna have to pay that, and it's very painful for me to have to say that, but I don't know that we have any other choice. We cannot just keep absorbing it for their mistakes.
Yeah, and I think that is very important that that is known of what's going on out there. And we were talking a little bit, me and Kelly a little bit about other budgets, and some of the counties are like, yeah, we're sitting pretty good. We got pretty low increase this year. Well, then she's like, I looked into what they did last year and they had double-digit increases last year, where we were under 3 last year. And I think that was a good decision. We needed to make that decision. Now this year, and we knew what was coming, but it's not our job, like you said, to hedge it or to smoke and mirrors it. We did the budget we could do last year, and this year we got to do the budget we got to do. So, yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts?
I have no idea how we're good.
Now, staff's looking for some direction, right?
Yes, please.
Last year, we had some departments look and see how they can trim it, like Becky trimmed hard.
Correct. And in the general fund, you have a handful of positions that the departments had just submitted requests without the positions already for this 2026 budget. Or delayed hiring.
So we need to think about providing some direction to staff. I know, was it last year we did it where when we did approve our preliminary, we said, you know, we still wanted departments to come back with some cuts. I think, was it last year we did the third? But we kind of left HHS out of it because they had approached a budget that had already eliminated a lot of that stuff. So I don't know if we want to look at something similar to that again, or
I don't see our way out of it without given some direction to staff to cut X amount of dollars. I don't know if that number is 700,000. I don't see a way out of it without spending some reserve funds. I've been on this board where we had built up a nice reserve, and I've been on this board when we were down to nothing. But I think it's that rainy day fund. I think it's raining until we get some traction to change some legislative ideas. We got to get through this somehow. And I don't think we can't put it all on the levy. We're gonna have to put enough portion of it out. But we can't do it all.
does anybody feel like they want to give out some numbers or not really?
Well, I'll run through a scenario. I mean, like it or not. So this is just looking at we got 1.1 growth of tax, levy. We have 3.9% HHS. That was the numbers that I came up with from Becky. And just our cost of government, it has to, our contracts. If you just get a 1% for that, you add that together and you got 6% right there. Now just use that 6% on the charts. Well, that solves 1.4, no, what was it? Yeah, it's 1.4 million. But we're looking at a deficit of 2.4, so we still got $1 million to solve with that kind of an increase. And I could maybe justify those numbers. I don't like them, but hey, I'm just throwing that out for discussion.
That's kind of where the camp I'm in, Roger, and then the question I have is how much are we willing to spend out of reserves? Because I think we're gonna have to spend some. And do we tell staff they gotta cut 800, 900,000? And we spend 3 to 4 on, I got out of reserves.
We worked pretty hard to get, we're not even, are we at our threshold of we're below the minimum, aren't we?
We are within our set threshold of 20 to 35% of reserves, going off memory.
Where are we at?
27%.
Where are we at?
We're at about 27%, I believe, for our reserves, where yes, we're not even to the state's threshold, but we are within our threshold.
But how much of that is,
Their state is.
how much of that is the medical?
Yeah.
In that?
What's that?
Are you carving out the insurance?
Right, that's just speaking to general fund undesignated reserves.
Because I don't want the insurance stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So we're doing pretty good there.
we're doing very good.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done very good. And I think I don't want subsequent boards to just keep spending reserve funds till we run out, but I think this is a time to use some of it.
The problem is that, Steve, is these employees our whole county keeps chugging along, and our contracts keep chugging along. So it's gonna be the same until we figure out how we can get it leveled off somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's not going away.
Do we want to put some sort of caveat on there about HHS, or do we want to just see kind of where it comes back, or yeah, go
Can
ahead.
I give just a suggestion?
Yeah.
Looking at my chart there, starting at HHS and down from there, that equals 956,040.
Chart are you on?
Just my budget, my board request.
This one,
Form.
Matt. Page 97.
So my thought would be, from everything HHS and below, that equals 956,482. The bonds, for example, we don't have a choice in increasing those.
Right.
And the elections fund, that's a minimal increase, and I think we've bought into the idea where we want to keep that a level levy, so that we don't have these highs and lows. So to me, the big question becomes that general fund, that $1.43 million of the general fund. And I mean, could that be looked at with the third formula?
Maybe that's where we
Which is
start.
about 500, about. And I come back to the next meeting just so that we aren't and give an update as to where we're at on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
we always look for more.
start there. Let's start there. At least that gives us a jumping off point. I think we're gonna have to go beyond that, but
It's gonna, yeah.
Yeah, because we got to set a preliminary budget, and yeah, our next meeting's in September, but we got to have it done by the end of September, which we have a little time, but we don't have a lot.
but it's running out.
Yep.
2 meetings basically,
Yep.
unless we want to have maybe the whole meeting, which isn't out of the question.
Does that give you enough to go
So-
forward? Okay.
And I can come back to that September 1st meeting with an update as to how we're doing.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
I think so.
Or
For now.
we have some direction at least. Okay. All right. Well, we will move on to commissioner updates. Kettle, Upper St. Croix Plan Partnership. Ludwig, were you there?
I'm
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead.
My head's not ready, but.
Just jump from
So
budget.
I think to me, the highlights are projects that are moving forward. You know, there was 3 or 2 in Finlayson now, that are happening now. But Moose Lake has a big project going in the city. It's storm water project. And the money they're looking for is like huge. And they're having that discussion and they were all, and I'm sitting like here being quiet, you know, and then I finally said, did we ever set a maximum we're gonna give you one project out of these funds? Because that would pretty much wipe out everything. You know, I mean, a big chunk of it. So that is gonna come back to us. We have to figure that out. And then the other high point with Kettle River, where one watershed, one plant, was that Carlton County brought up the tax forfeit issues where they have to do the cleanups and it's by a river and stuff. And it's like, they can't afford to do the cleanup. So it wasn't even on the Kettle River, the one watershed, one plant radar to worry about cleanups. But if it's close to a river or a lake or something like that, it might get put on there as a resource for some of the funding for the cleanup. So we don't know if we're gonna push that a little bit. So that's pretty much it for that meeting.
Okay. East Central Solid Waste.
Yep, we met, you know, normal bills and continual talk of the next phase. So, you know, we barely got this phase open and it's never too early to start talking about what are we gonna do next. We did have a discussion about as you're aware, there's a demolition landfill it's northeast of Rush City. It's privately owned. It's an online facility. They approached the commission to purchase that whole spot of land. We were not very excited about it because we had to buy it all, which means we accept the liability of the online facility that's been there forever. And I don't think we want to go down that road. If we did anything there, we would have to line it to make it a modern day demo facility. Then we're running 2 facilities. I don't think it just pencils out. I think we'd be much better off to approach some of the neighbors. There's some gravel pits just to the north of the commission's land that maybe down the road we can work on that. Then yesterday, John came over and met with Kelly and Aaron and I about some of our recycling needs. And one of our big problems is what do we do with the brush? We collect this brush and there's a huge pile there now. In the old days, we've always burnt it. It's problematic to burn them. We know we should be grinding it up. We did that once a few years ago and we couldn't get rid of the grindings. So then we had to dispose of them, but John's gonna work up a plan where the commission buys a grinder and it gets towed around to the communities that have brush piles and then they can use that for daily cover. So I think it's not gonna happen next week, but I think it will happen. He also wants to go down the road and get the commission more involved in recycling. Our recycle data doesn't, and we're not the only rural county. We just kind of suck at it. And maybe part of it is we don't keep good enough track of it. Part of it is it's just too easy to throw it in the garbage. So he's got some plans to work on that. That's about it.
Okay. Library, East Central Regional Library?
Nothing in addition to the budget that we talked about. And the joint powers changes are progressing kind of slowly, but they're out for other full boards to comment and attorneys. So that's where that's at.
Okay. And Highway 23?
Highway 23, probably just a renewed focus on the north section. They went through that at our last meeting that, that is going to be our message, is looking at, trying to support getting these studies done from the section from Foley to I-35. And that is the priority at this point, and also getting some new members and some support along the corridor, and that is happening. So that's good. That's good progress there.
Good. Soil and water.
Yep, okay, so pretty much a general meeting, but the new business, the projects are what I want to be reporting on from here on. Snake River had a project from 2025 and they just extended the expiration date on that one. The Nemadji has two new projects that they're partnering with the Nemadji, one watershed, one plan. So because it's down in ours. One was 11,757 and the other one was 3,000. And Lower St. Croix, two projects they're partnering with, 8,000 on one and 6,000 some on the other. And the Kettle River Upper St. Croix project in Finlayson, they're partnering with those that I reported on the last one. And conservation contracts, they're partnering with one there. And soil health grant projects. One big. Other than that, it was. But the stuff's starting to happen. That's what's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But the weakness that I see, and it always comes up when they do the streams. Streams are not getting, and I think they're just so hard to, So anyway, that's one thing, but.
All right, Law Library got moved to this Thursday. Primary election canvassing board.
I'll tell you what, that's, I don't know if it can compare it to watching paint dry. But it is a good lesson, and anybody that thinks there is fraud going on in the election needs to either be an election judge or sit in on a canvassing board thing. How many precincts do we have? 47 precincts. And the only minor discrepancy of all of the things was somebody put in a hand count precinct, they wrote something in the wrong column. So I think that's what happened. Anyway, it was very, very, like 2 votes. So otherwise everything was dead on. It's a
lot of people in the primary, so it's a lot of columns.
A lot of names on those ballots. Holy cats. Mary was reading there and she must have been hoarse for a day afterwards.
Do we know the turnout percentage yet?
I think we had calculated right around 30%.
Is that good?
Yeah, I thought primaries usually we look at about 20%.
Oh, okay.
So it
Good.
felt really good.
Yeah, it was good. All right. All right, any other meetings anybody went to? Okay, anything other to come before the county board? All right, take a look at your upcoming meetings. Looks like certain Commissioner Holland is hosting some people out there on Friday.
Friday.
At your place, just some new projects that were done and.
Yep,
and,
soil and water's putting it on.
What's on the menu?
I don't know. Daggett is fine, so I don't have to do anything except
Can
stand.
I put a request in or not? Okay,
Daggett's is catering it.
I might have grandpa duty to pick.
sounds good. Well, yeah, take a peek at your upcoming meetings.
If I don't have.
I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.